Let's talk about Airbnb's IPO, the company releasing its S-1 last quarter. Just a couple of highlights here in terms of some of the numbers that we got. They earned a profit of $219 million, revenue of $1.34 billion. We want to bring in Melody Hahm. She, of course, has been following this story very closely for us here at Yahoo Finance. And Melody, the S-1, it's nearly 500 pages long, I think I saw earlier. So there's clearly a lot to highlight when it comes to what is in this report. But I think one of the obvious ones being that this is the first time that we've really gotten this in-depth look just in terms of how the coronavirus has impacted Airbnb.
Yeah, Shauna, we had some glimmers of that earlier on, especially as we saw Airbnb had laid off 25% of its staff back in May. We saw bookings and revenue plummet based on kind of external reporting that we have seen. But to your point, this is the first real look at Airbnb's full disclosures right now. I want to add some other numbers to just set the scene right now. The company's filing yesterday did confirm, right, the damage that it suffered during COVID-19. Its gross booking value for the 9 months ending September 30th tumbled to $18 billion. That's down about 40% from the same period last year. But I do want to point out that year-over-year revenue, of course, has been growing. 2019 revenue for the company was $4.8 billion. That's compared to $3.7 billion in 2018. That does represent 32% year-over-year growth. And just thinking about the kinds of investments going forward, several of the sources that I've been speaking with originally, even back in early March, the intention was to invest in potential flights, in a media company, in all of these portfolios and expanding and diversifying their empire, even really investing more in the business traveler to try to figure out ways to get into the lucrative conference business, right? But now with the pandemic, the focus has been lasered in on the leisure consumer, as a lot of those lines between leisure and travel and work have entirely been blurred and maybe dissipated. So the S-1 definitely highlights and reminds us that the core consumer is the traveler that is willing to take a road trip, perhaps spend a couple months on the road, and they're betting that the total addressable market there could actually be much larger than we originally anticipated. One other point to note, the stock will trade under the ticker ABNB on the NASDAQ. It is anticipated to go public by the end of this year. And this is a huge win for the NASDAQ. This is going to be one of the highest profile public offerings on the NASDAQ since 2012, when Facebook went public there. Since then, there's been this appetite for these high profile names, these household names, to go to the NYSE. But given the fact that tech stocks have been on fire these days, there seems to be this sort of renaissance and resurgence in actually wanting to go to the NASDAQ.